Senator Rounds.
Oh, okay.
So, but nice try.
Yes, sir. Just want to make sure whatever you say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, welcome. It's always good to have you in front of our committee. And as you know, both core and headline inflation have remained persistently elevated. And over the past 12 months, real average hourly earnings fell by 1.8%, about 4% since President Biden took office. To make ends meet as prices increase, more Americans are leaning on credit cards. At the end of 2022, credit card debt hit a record of $930.6 billion, an 18.5% spike from a year earlier, and an average credit card balance rose to $5,805. Over the past year, the Fed has acted aggressively to tame inflation, and yet we are still seeing price increases. And as we've discussed this several times, but I recognize that it's been an ongoing discussion, but I believe that this further proves that we have long been feeling the effects of a policy-induced inflation resulting from decisions by the Biden administration, primarily cutting off the resources necessary to improve and increase domestic energy production. I continue to be concerned that if you attempt to use the tools that are available at this time for the Fed, then I believe that we're going to have a challenge of not being able to address specifically the challenges brought out when you have a policy is promoting higher prices with regard to energy, as opposed to what you're trying to do, which is to bring down the total overall cost. And I just wanted to ask, I guess, and you're going to think this is something that we've heard before, but do you believe that you currently have the monetary policy tools to actually reduce inflation? And I just put it in this perspective. In January of 2021, the CPI was 1.4% when the Biden administration began. In January of 2022, and this is before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, CPI was at 7.5%, 7.5%. Today, March of 2022, CPI is 8.5%. Wouldn't it be fair to assess that a lot of the policy or the inflation that we've seen here may very well be due to policy decisions by this administration?
Senator, not for us to point fingers. Our job is to use our tools. You asked whether we have the tools to get this job done, and we do over time. There are some things that we can't affect, but over time we can achieve 2% inflation, and we will.
In other words, you've got a limited number of tools available to you, and the limited number of tools that you have are designed to impact simply the reduction in prices and so forth, and yet if there are competing interests out there that are pushing prices higher, you don't have the wherewithal to decide one tool versus another based on whether it's policy-induced or whether it is a matter of a shortage in supplies from outside or whether it's war-related.
That's right. Our tools essentially work on demand, moderating demand, and so that's what we can do.
So if there were policies in place that actually help to reduce inflation, in other words, and by that I'm just going to look at energy alone just as a good example. If policies were in place that were actually allowing energy prices to come down in the United States, then you would have less of a need to use the very blunt tools that you do have right now with regard to increasing rate increases. Is that a fair statement, sir?
In a sense, it is. But I would just say on energy,
I'm not trying to get you to a policy discussion with what the president's doing on his energy policy. I just want to make it clear that you have to respond to what's in front of you, and it doesn't matter where the inflation is coming from or what's driving it up. You're simply trying to bring it back down to that 2% number with the only tools that you've really got.
Yes, but I will say on energy, energy has tended over time to fluctuate up and down, and it's not mainly affected by our tools. So the things we look at are really things that are tightly linked to demand in the U.S. economy. Those we can affect. And
I think just the fact that you've been increasing interest rates, and yet inflation continues to ride up, would suggest, just as you've just indicated, that when you have high energy prices, it's tough to impact that part of it with the monetary policy that you've got available to you.
So we focus on everything, but we also focus on core in particular, which doesn't include energy prices. And what's happened is core inflation has come down, but nowhere near as fast as we might have hoped, and it has a long way to go.
Thank you. One last question. Last June, Vice Chairman of Supervision Michael Barr testified before this committee that he would defend the use of the aggregation method as an alternative approach to the insurance capital standards, the ICS, proposed by the IAIS. As the final compatibility criteria set to come out later this year, can you confirm that you share Vice Chair Barr's views on this AM?
I will confirm that, but I'll have to get back to you on the status of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.